Good morning, Latasha. This is Sherry. Hope you are well.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Latasha. How are you?
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, team.
Morning. Just a reminder that we are streaming live on YouTube. I am polling some board members. We do have quite a few out of the state, out of the country. Ms. Escobar is going to start us off. If Chairman Rigger cannot join, I'm just finding that out. But we can get started once I get confirmation.
Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
And good morning to all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
got his primary day, so I know Board Member Walker's voting, so he'll be joining right after.
Do you know if Ms. Brody's joining us, Christina?
Not yet.
I voted at like 7:30 this morning.
Early bird.
Mm,
Best to beat the lines.
absolutely.
Christina,
Yes.
I'm going to log out and come back in. I think you all can see me, but I can't see you. So,
Okay.
all right.
In the meantime, well, Ms. Escobar, I'll leave it up to you if you want to give a few more minutes.
Let's
Protect-
give it at least until 8:35, and then we can get started to respect everyone's time.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Brody says she'll be joining shortly as well.
Great. Any word from Phil?
No,
Vacation, so
I know. Yeah, he did. He's out of the country, but he said he would try to join.
Yeah.
But it looks like he won't. In the meantime, I'll share the agenda on the screen.
thank you, Christina. All right, let's get started. Want to be respectful of everyone's time. So, good morning. I'm Board Member Jahaira Escribano. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm calling this meeting to order. We have several contracts that we will be reviewing today, starting off with the continuation approval for OPP. I'm going to pass it on to Superintendent, who will pass it on to her team.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, we can get started and OPP is on deck. I believe I see that's the OPP team that's joining us. Good morning, everyone. And Chief Davis Gooch, I can turn it over to you. And I'll also tag in Dr. Negron, given that, the partnership that we have with OPP is at the center of our continuum of post-secondary supports. If you remember, we were very intentional a few years ago when we identified our tiered system of supports for students, and OPP fits within that continuum.
Get started. I'm not sure where in the presentation if you have a break in the middle for questions, but I'm going to ask my fellow board members to hold off until you reach a good stopping point to ask questions.
Thank you for clarifying protocol, Board Member Escribano. Chief Davis Gooch.
Good morning, everyone. We will start with our objectives today. So we're gonna start with our review of alternative programming design. This actually fits into our high school redesign work. So we're gonna start with the scope of services for OPP first, and then also go to HOPE 1 and 2. We're gonna discuss the SOP alignment and review the contract details for both HOPE and OPP. I'm actually gonna kick it off or turn it over to Dr. Negron to kind of ground us in how these two contracts fit into our high school redesign work.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Chief Davis Gooch. So here in front of you, what you are seeing is the model that we utilize right now that is in full implementation at Hartford Public Schools, which details the systems of supports that were put in place as a result of all the work that began in 2018-19, when we were taking a look at our students and the way that they were meeting success at our comprehensive high schools. As a result of that, and taking a closer look at individual students and looking at their needs, this tier system was developed. And what you are seeing here illustrated is that this is what we utilize currently as a practice within our 3 comprehensive high schools, right? Buckley, Hartford High, and Weaver. It all begins with the freshman academies that are in full implementation at our 3 comprehensive high schools, right? Every 9th grader goes in, is a member of these freshman academies. As part of those academies, they receive their core instruction. The freshman teachers meet collaboratively then to discuss how students are performing. I want to recall your attention to another partner that we utilize for this work, which is RISE, and all the work that happens to make sure that there are closer looking at our students and making sure that they're on track to then move on to 10th grade and so forth. As part of the comprehensives too, as you see in your primary tier, we have the career pathways, which we have spoken about in the past. So there you do see listed the 2 pathways that are available to our students at each of the comprehensive high schools. And for this, I just want to recall your attention to another partner, which is Rarity CT, that supports us along the way to make sure that we have the curriculum up and running for students. Secondly, then, when we see that our students are not meeting success, is when they are recommended as part of their course schedules to go into what we call a math or an ELA intervention. So that is what you see here listed as an early secondary intervention. That is work that then is also monitored, again, by freshman academies, the MTSS teams at the school level. And then for students that are a little overage, undercredited, we start looking at other options that may be available to them. So that is when we start tapping into recommending our students into the student success centers. And again, we have had a center that has been up and running at Hartford High. Last year, we implemented that center at Weaver, and very happy to share that again this year, we're going to be opening the centers at Buckley North and Buckley South. And now all of our comprehensive high schools would have access to that tier 2 intervention for students. When we see students, again, based on data that are requiring more intensive supports, that is then when they are recommended into this tier 3. That encompasses or personalized pathways, and those are located at Buckley High School. And that is when we start also talking about Hope 1 and Hope 2, which is one of the contracts that we're going to be presenting for renewal today. Then when we see students that are of greater need, and by greater need, we look at credit attainment, we also look at age of a student, and that's when we start making decisions that include what we call tier 4 extensive intervention. And for that, we start looking at OPP, and today we're going to be discussing the renewal, as well as adult education. With all of these interventions and tier supports, I want to make sure that we are all clear that we're aiming to make sure that our students are graduating as close to on time as possible. in that we are putting and presenting all viable options to our students and families because we want to prevent our students from dropping out. So that is the essence again of the tier interventions that have been put in place. Again, all stemming from the work that started in 2018-19 and also the work that we've done around the multi-tier systems of support. So at this point, I think I'm going to pass it back to you, Chief Davis-Gooch.
Thank you, Dr. Negron. I think what I would add to that piece is that as we look at how it's aligned with our SOP, we want to just share that our student educational outcomes will be aligned with our primary and secondary goals established by the DME and 21-24. So some of this is increasing average four-year graduation rate to 83% or higher, reducing chronic absenteeism to 12% or lower, or at least 67.8% of our students are enrolled in college and career readiness courses. And that's our students are enrolled in grades 11 and 12. I think Dr. Negron covered that. Thank you. So OPP scope of services will include, again, serving our overage and undercredited students requiring Tier 4 extensive intervention. They do this through a blended program of classroom and online learning, including wraparound supports for social and emotional support, as well as career and college planning. On the next slide, we actually go into the details of the contract. OPP has been partners in this work regarding high school redesign since 2015. The work is actually managed by the Office of Academics and the Office of Enrollment and School Choice. Academics serves as the touch point for the programming piece, of course, and as well as determining which students would benefit from the services. The Office of Enrollment and School Choice helps engage with the families around the transition from one of our comprehensive high schools to the OPP campus. The contract is supported by our general funds, $660,000 includes administrative costs. That's the baseline. And then as student enrollment increases over 75, you see there are some prorated costs. In addition, OPP is reimbursed for special education related services. I'll just share some numbers. Prior to COVID, so school year 19-20, the special ed reimbursement was approximately $249,000. Past school year, it was about $50,000, and that's because some of our enrollment has been down. Our next slide, we talk about how the contract is managed. There are enrollment planning meetings that are held biweekly to review the student enrollment and attendance data. Certainly, when the need arises, there are additional touch points through the week. There's also quarterly reporting on attendance, credit attainment, and earned credits towards graduation. And then there's an end of year summary report. This report, I believe, for school year 21-22 was included in your packet, and it also includes the student metrics for school year 21-22. So again, the two offices, along with OPP, work very closely to make sure the needs of our students are met. So I think this superintendent is a good place to pause for questions for the OPP contract. And if I can invite President and CEO Hector Rivera to share any additional information he feels that is very important to this conversation.
And thank you, Sherry, and thank you to HBS for your continued partnership. OA, our model, we continue to enhance in partnership with HPS. As Sherry mentioned, we have extreme connectivity regarding the school. Like she mentioned, there is a biweekly meeting regarding eligible students that is attended by our Director of Enrollment and Retention, Gerard Dawes, and Carolyn and Fallon. And administrators meet once a quarter to, we call it our tri-semester meetings, to look at the potential graduates and see their progression across the year and what additional supports we can put in place in order to get them across the finish line. In addition, every OA student is afforded some of the other services that OPP facilitates in the community. I was happy to see that we are now intentionally putting more emphasis on career and post-secondary readiness. That's something that we do for other young people in the community, so it's just natural for us to do. This year, we plan on being intentional with our work-based, project-based, and internships, as we plan on including some workforce experiences in the OA students' experience here. Of course, there'll be some parameters in order to access some of those paid opportunities. Young people have to have great attendance standing and have to demonstrate credit progression in order to access those services. In the past, we've used our workforce experience as kind of an enhancement, and we've seen over time that young people react better, achieve better, progress better when there's a combination of career and academics. So, like I said, it's not just an educational experience, it's a holistic experience. Life skills, financial literacy, anything we can find that makes the student well-rounded, because we've seen greater success from the OA graduates when we present all those additional elements.
Thank you so much for that information. Superintendent, is there anything else you want to say before I open it up to our fellow board members?
I do not have anything else to add.
Thank you. So I'm going to open up the floor to my fellow board members. Are there any questions specifically about OPP?
I do have a question.
Ms. Brody?
More of a request. I would like the opportunity to visit OPP. I've heard things about it, but I've never had the opportunity to actually be in that space at all. So I'm hoping that Christina can get me on someone's schedule so I can actually visit OPP.
That's
absolutely.
That's a great request, Ms. Broden. I'll put it out there, Christina, Superintendent, Cabinet, and OPP. If we can schedule some times for board members to come out, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I'll certainly support that, Christina.
Thank you so much. Is there any other questions, concerns, or recommendations? Going once, going twice. Topic on our agenda.
Ms. Escobar, I think we lost you. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, great. I apologize, I lost connection. Let's move on to the next topic of the agenda. No.
Christina, I'm gonna follow your lead because I can't hear.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it's very spotty on my end, so I don't.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed in the
You guys
chat.
hear me better now?
Yes.
Is that a little bit better?
The superintendent also noted in the chat that her area is spotty connection, so she's dropping in and out, just FYI. Thankfully for now, mine is good, so we'll move on to the Hope Academy, the facilities contract, and I will tag in Chief Blackburk.
And thank you, Christina, and good morning, everyone. So just wanted to add a little more to the background, and thank you, Dr. Negron, for opening up and talking about OPP as well as Hope 1 and 2. So Hope Academy, it does offer students academic credit and content classes. The classes are provided by the certified staff, and they are trained in project-based learning. Students are able to participate in internships and programming that helps lead them with healthy lifestyles, and that is also done in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. So Hope 1 supports students from Hartford Public High School at the Sigourney Street Boys and Girls Club, and Hope 2, as we began last year, supports students from Weaver and Buckley at the newly built South End Boys and Girls Club. So this is a part of our district operating plan, and through the use of ESSER funds, we were able to expand Hope Academy to the South End BGC. So we are looking to renew the contract for the use in the space at Hope 2 for the 22-23 school year. As you know, this is managed by a couple of offices, the Office of Academics, the Office of Enrollment and School Choice, and the Office of Family and Community Partnerships. The cost is $120,000 for the school year, $12,000 a month, and that does include maintenance fees. And the request is to have this paid monthly. I do want to call your attention to the usage chart. Christina, okay, perfect, thank you. So the Boys and Girls Club, they are providing the following spaces that are listed here. The lounge, the tech center. So our students have full access to the Boys and Girls Club on the South End at that South End Club. And also want to add that each student does receive full membership to the Boys and Girls Club. So these are the spaces that have been allotted, full access, cafeteria, they can use the space, and they also have a free membership to the South End Club. So our aim is just to renew this facilities contract for Hope 2. The space for our Hope 2 students, the contract term is beginning of this school year through June 30th, 2023. And this definitely does align, as Dr. Negron and Chief Davis Scooge alluded to, this supports our priority number 2, teaching and learning. So I'll pause there for any questions, Christina.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Better. Okay, great. I'm going to open up the floor to questions for my fellow board members. I also just want to make a quick note. At 9 o'clock, I have to jump off very quickly for a personal matter, but then I'll be right back. I'm going to let Christina handle the rest of the meeting while I am gone for a couple of minutes. But in the meantime, I'm opening it up to two of my fellow board members. Any questions so far?
I don't have any questions at the time.
Ms. Brody, do you have any questions?
I don't.
Okay, great. I don't know if Mr. Walker's here. I don't see him.
Yeah,
Oh, I see him.
I don't have any questions. I'm just listening in.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Chief Blackburn, you may continue.
All right, thank you. So Christina, do I move into the language line or? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, actually, why don't we do that since we have you on? Let me put you on. Give me a second. Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, so wanted to take some time to review. This is also a continuation contract for the language line services. So I want to provide some background, discuss the alignment to our strategic plan, the data points that I want to share, and then just overall partnership. So HPS began contracting with the language line in 2011 for over the phone interpretation. And this is for all of our schools. So every school is able to utilize the language line. The language line provides services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it provides 240 languages. So there aren't many languages that are spoken within our district that the language line is not able to provide interpretation services for. Thank you. So during the school year, 2019, 2020, as we moved into the pandemic, and then as we moved into the 2021 school year, we recognized that there was just quite a need to continue to utilize Language Line services. There was such an increase to the point that we had to expand this contract twice. And so what we have been working on over the last couple of years is ensuring that we have a contract that is able to meet the needs of our district, given where we are, and especially now that we are coming out of a post-pandemic state. So we are looking to keep the dollar amount at the 120 for the Language Line, but that is the background as to how we came to that number. We had to expand the contract from 40,000 to 115,000, and the average invoice right now is 12,000 due to the increase on the volume of calls. So right now we are saying that we are looking at a contract for 120,000 based on the data that we've been able to collect, and that should serve the district for the entire year. And so this is just alignment to our strategic plan as it relates to priority 3. So we want to continue to develop and strengthen partnerships with our family and community. And in order to do that, of course, we need to have timely communication, feedback cycles, but enable for us to do that for our families, we need to ensure that they're able to communicate with us in real time in their language. So by having these services can be utilized for a PPT, they can be utilized for a meeting with a teacher. Really, if there is a need, schools can utilize the Language Line. All it takes is just a phone call, and I'm happy to share, Christina, the card that is used so board members can see what it looks like, how a school goes about using that, because it really is just a very simple 3-step process, and an interpreter can be on the line. So just some data points here, looking over the last 3 school years. So the language that is most often utilized through our Language Line is Spanish. And in the 2019-2020 school year, you can see it's roughly 4,900 calls. And then for the 2020-21 school year, that almost doubled. And we have stayed about the same for the 21-22 school year. Thank you. So the Language Line, it does provide interpretation services in various languages. As I shared about the billing and the invoices, we've actually taken time to look at that to determine where we need to be as a district in order to provide continuous service for families that need the Language Line and for our schools that would need to utilize them. School personnel, they do not have to schedule the calls. They can call directly at any time. 78% of the calls are for the Spanish language, and then the other languages that schools have used for the Language Line are listed below. I do want to call to the board's attention. I know this came up. These calls are not recorded. So the calls that come into the Language Line during a meeting, a PPT, a parent-teacher conference, those calls are not recorded. So I just wanted to make sure that I said that, and the board is aware that these calls are not recorded, so we aren't violating any laws, FERPA rights of our families. So the main aim is just to provide accessible language interpretation services for all Hartford Public Schools. Again, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The contracted amount that we are proposing is $120,000 for this school year. This contract does live in the Office of Family and Community Partnerships, and our alignment is just to improve that transparent and timely communication with our families. And I will pause for questions. Thank you, Christina.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions on the Language Line?
No.
I do. This is Shantae.
Okay, Ms. Brody, and then Ms. Davis Ledger. I saw your hand, so go ahead, Ms. Brody.
So pre-pandemic, we were at an amount. Then during pandemic, it increased, and now we're increasing again. If I'm understanding that correctly, could someone explain the logic? Like, because I thought I got the feel that it increased because we were in the pandemic and everyone was remote and we needed to, still communicate with families, but it seems like now we're increasing.
Chief Blackburn, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Christina. Would you be able to go to the slide deck again, Christina?
Which slide? Am I on the right one?
You're in the right deck, yes. If you can go to, I believe it's slide 4.
This one?
Slide 4.
Which is slide 4? Oh, background. Okay.
Thank you. So during the pandemic, we did increase the language line contract from 40,000 to 115,000 based on the monthly invoices, the averages. So last year, the language line contract for the 21-22 school year was 120,000. So we are not looking to increase it again. We are maintaining at 120,000 based on the number of calls that we received last year. So we are not looking to expand it, but to maintain it at 120,000. Does that answer the question?
It just answers the fact that we have not increased since we more than doubled, but I'm still not understanding, because when it was the increase, the discussion at the time was we were in a pandemic. We needed to communicate with families. I don't understand how we're still needing it at this increased level.
Thank you, Christina. And if you could go to slide 6.
Am I on the right? The data slide, yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So just wanted to reiterate here, it did double from 1920 to 2021. But in an effort to maintain the level of service for our families and wanting to ensure that families, now that they have come to understand, like, we want to communicate differently, there's no interruption to staff. Staff can make the connection to the language line and interface with our families. Like, we want to continue that type of service for our families. So the need is still there. Instead of calling a staff member out of a class to interpret, we can utilize the language line. So we want to continue that. So during the 1920 school year and prior school years, it may not have been utilized in that way, the language line, but we have said as a district that this is what we're going to do for our families, and is to ensure that they have access to interpretation services. So no, we are coming out of like a post-pandemic, but we want to continue that level of service to our families. So I hope that answers the question, Ms. Brody. So we have maintained the same number of calls for 2021 and also 21-22.
This is my concern, and this may not be a question for you to answer. I am trying to, because I've had engagement with many, at least the Spanish speaking parents. It's a parent group that is very vocal and organized around wanting things in their native language, from, things that are sent home, and not relying on their children to try to, communicate to them in that way. But okay, you come to a school and we're saying no disruption to staff. So it's multiple things for me, right? One, saying, have we ever hired for interpreters? Because if I'm at a PPT meeting and I'm a parent, and a lot of times the parent in the room is not kind of understanding what's going on in the room and needing support, but I'm relying on someone that's interpreting through a phone. Like if I'm just at the school, or a parent or a teacher needs to call a parent, language line, yep, we're just going to have this communication. But when we move from that to areas of actual PPT meetings, I'm hoping that that because through interpretation, when you get into different type of languages, like in a court, the language line, you're of course going to be like, let's get that specific language for court, because it's not easily translated with certain words that I've experienced that personally. Like is someone who grew up speaking Spanish, and they're like, that word, when I say, could you interpret for me? That word they saying I can't do that. Like, because some words are not like commonly used words. So I'm gonna say I'm secure in the fact that the language of education, that we've worked this out with the language line to deal with that. But I'm trying to imagine the experience of a parent in a PPT meeting. Sometimes that could be overwhelming, understanding things, learning things right there in the moment, kind of lost in those meetings because I work with those families. But also on top of that, they're relying on someone on the phone to communicate with them as to what's going on in the room. That is a concern for me concerning families.
Thank
And
you.
I don't know who, going to tackle that one.
Thank you for that, Ms. Brody. I will definitely tag in the superintendent, maybe in the interest of time, to connect with all the board members after this meeting. Or superintendent, I don't know if you want to address it right now.
Christina, it's coming in and out.
Okay.
I hope you can hear me. I think I heard in and out what Ms. Brody was saying, but I do think is a worthwhile an opportunity for us to perhaps Ms. Chief Blackburg, to have a meeting and unpack the process. I know that we're also thinking about the impact of staff shortages and making sure that we maintain the promise that we made with regard to having the language line available. That was feedback that we also got, that we needed to expand that service. And so Ms. Blackburg, I'm suggesting and requesting that we have a further conversation with not only Ms. Brody, but other board members if they have additional concerns, to address Ms. Brody's concerns, comments, and also if there are additional concerns with regard to the language line. And perhaps specifically as to, the process that takes place in the PPT, as parents and families and advocates are using the line.
Thank you. And I'll call on Ms. Darrow Ledger.
And wait, I see another hand. I don't know if you called on her because
Ms. Darrow Ledger now.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Ms. Blackburg, for the presentation. It was very clear and very detailed. My question is, when there's a situation, or has there been a situation where the language line has been used and there's some type of sensitive information that may, lead to mandated reporter type situations? Has that happened, and how is that handled?
Chief Blackburg.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you, Board Member Darrell Ledger. So if there is sensitive information that is being shared, as I alluded to in the presentation, the language line, they aren't recording. And if it is something, and that's why I'm one to advocate for the language line, there isn't another person like in the room who is hearing this family's, business, for lack of a better word. They're there with whoever is delivering the message, the teacher, the SPED supervisor. Those are the only people sharing that information. I don't know personally if we've had a situation with a mandated reporter, but again, looking at the comprehensive strategy of trying to communicate to families in a timely manner through letters. You'll hear about Parent Square in a little bit through the language line. That's also at the forefront, is making sure that delicate information is communicated in that family's language directly to them and not involving a third party who doesn't necessarily need to be a part of that. But what I can do is speak directly with our team here, the chief of schools, as well as Ms. Hoffman, to find out, if there's a delicate situation and we are using the language line, are there other pieces that we need to add in? But as of right now, I don't recall, and I'm not aware of any of those delicate situations that something may have gone awry.
Thank you, Chief Blackburg.
Thank you.
And yeah, I was going to say, if that satisfies the question. In the interest of time, I'm just going to check if Board Member Walker has any questions on this language line contract. And Board Member Walker, I don't know if you can.
No,
Okay.
I don't have any question. I'm just struggling with the technology because I'm on a different device.
Okay, thanks. So we have the district strategic operating plan to get to, but before that, one last contract. We have the Parent Square, and we have Jesse Sugarman on the call, and I will share my screen. Mr. Sugarman.
Thanks so much. Good morning, everyone. I also have Deb Zimmerman-Hers, our communications coordinator, on the line as well to help with any questions that might come up. So in the interest of time, I will jump right in on the overview of Parent Square. Sorry, thanks, Christina. Parent Square is our district-wide communications software as a service platform. It encompasses all district, school, and classroom level communication with our families. So as a district, we've used Parent Square since April of 2021. It began as a pilot of 18 different schools and was fully implemented across the district in June of 2021. So this is a renewal of that contract. It solves our most, urgent school-home communications challenge equitably. Promotes equity in that Parent Square streamlines the interactions between parents and the school, taking into consideration language translation and the devices that parents use most often. So it's a very customizable communications platform. Two-way communication is the key, for us in successfully maintaining and building an active parent community. Especially when parents don't have time for regular school visits and want to be kept up to speed on all things that are happening at their school in the moment. Many of our families have worked several jobs, and this is a platform that certainly makes communication easy and accessible for all of our families. Modern technology is changing the way we communicate. This is one example. It allows us to be more transparent about what happens daily in the classroom and within the school community at large, not just within the classroom. And then I would add on to that also what happens throughout the district. Gives us an opportunity to make sure we're articulating our district priorities with our families in real time. In terms of integration with other platforms, this integrates with PowerSchool. There's a nightly port of student data to Parent Square, which would include contact information. So that's useful in the sense that it will keep all information up to date. And there doesn't need to be multiple updates that are happening. This is a seamless update. Once a parent has updated their contact information via PowerSchool, it's automatically updated via Parent Square, which is obviously efficient for everyone. It's used by central office, as I mentioned, used by our principals, teachers, FCSSPs, student engagement specialists, school secretaries, executive assistants, school nurses, and more. This is really the platform that is consistent across the district so that our families are receiving important information from all centers in one space. Also offers a variety of communication, direct messaging, posts, smart alerts, etc. And training for administrators is straightforward, very easy to understand. There are videos that are available, and the communications team is also available to help with any troubleshooting that may come up as administrators are onboarded. We can go to the next slide. So Parent Square, as I mentioned before, gives our families greater control and convenience with how they want to receive school and district communications. That can be via email, text, phone calls, or all three, whatever they prefer. They determine when they want to receive their school communication. Some families will opt in for the digest, and they'll receive information at the end of the day or at a particular time. The only exception to that rule is that as a district and a school, you can override that preference if there is an emergency. So if we do need to share information that is urgent, we are able to override that and make sure that our families receive that as soon as possible. They can also choose their preferred language, which we'll go into that a little bit more on the next slide. Additional features include forms and documents, permission slips, field trip forms, all accessible via Parent Square. And there is a feature so they're able to provide a digital signature via Parent Square as well. They can add a calendar feature to set reminders for upcoming events. We're also able to segment Parent Square groups. So if we have students that are in early start, intersession, extended learning programs, they would be in a group specific to that, and also a group specific for their homeschool as well, or for their general school, excuse me. And so the other important thing to note is that Parent Square is an opt-out platform. So we've removed the barrier of families having to register for Parent Square. They're automatically registered. They would only opt out if they didn't want to receive messages in a certain way, but we have not seen that with our families. Beyond that, it is very much a customizable tool. We can jump to the translation slide. So obviously translation services are really important for us as a district. 22% of our students are multilingual learners, 85 different languages, over 85 different languages spoken across the district. So that is Parent Square provides us with a bridge to make sure that our teachers, our administrators, and central office can communicate with all of our families. As you can see in the lower right portion, the text is a little small. On the left, in the white bubble, is a message from a teacher. That is then translated into Spanish for the parent, as they have set that as their preferred language. When the parent replies in Spanish, it's then translated back into English for the teacher. So they're able to have a two-way conversation in their preferred languages to make sure that no information is missed. There's a couple screenshots at the top that just shows how to set your preferred languages, which we recently communicated to our families. I believe it was at the end of May. If a family has not selected a language from Parent Square, it defaults to the PowerSchool selection. So again, that's another area where there is an integration. So if they've established that in PowerSchool, they will automatically receive that message in Parent Square in their preferred language. Currently, there are 13 different languages on Parent Square. This slide here is showing the effectiveness of our communication, also the ability for Parent Square to provide us in central office with dashboards so that we're able to follow up and make sure that our families are connected, and to see sort of where there might be some problem areas with connectivity. Over 95% of our families are contactable through Parent Square. This is an overall snapshot of users. You'll see over 19,000 students. One of the reasons why you see this number a little higher than our enrollment is because students will show up as a duplicate entry if they're in extended learning programs. There's not a duplication in terms of information. It's just we have them segmented into a different group so they can also receive specific messaging for that particular program. So that's why that shows up as a little higher. You see over 3,500 staff and teachers on Parent Square, over 20,000 parents. There are more than half of our schools have 99% or 100% parent engagement on Parent Square. It provides access to analytics for schools to improve accuracy. So if we see that a student is not contactable, schools and central office are notified, and we'll be able to see those analytics through the dashboard so that we can reach out and make sure that we correct any errors. We can move on to the next slide. Just another example of some of the analytics that we're able to see. This is really showing reach, throughout our community in the various formats that our families have elected to receive information. This is just a snapshot of our summer data. 15,000 parents are receiving emails. That's the preferred method. Over 5,600 parents are receiving text messages. They can also receive information via our app. which I personally use on my phone, and that's a really easy way for us to receive information. But again, this is customizable. However they want to receive the information is how they'll end up receiving that information. They can select multiple options. The last slide goes into our contract details. So I mentioned this is a renewal of the contract for this school year. The cost of that is $85,000. Parent Square has offered us a discount of $5 per student. That was previously $6 per student. We're also able to customize based on enrollment. So this is an enrollment-based contract. If our enrollment goes up, we would plan accordingly. If that goes down, we're able to see some savings on the overall contract. They're able to adjust the number for accuracy. So I'll pause here if there's any questions about the functionality or anything else regarding Parent Square. And Deb is also available to help answer some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sugarman. Board members, do you have any questions on Parent Square?
I do not have any questions at this time.
Thank you.
Christina, I'm also back. Apologies.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Escobar.
If there are no further questions, we can move forward.
Okay. Looks like, and I just want to remind the board that these contracts are on the agenda for the August
I think the key
regular
is
meeting.
communication, staying in communication, getting some set goals. So we're talking about that.
Sorry, I don't know who needs to mute. I hear another meeting in the background. And I also want to note that we will follow up on the two concerns on the language line contract.
Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome. And next on the agenda is the district strategic operating plan. Superintendent, I hope you have better service.
I'm trying here. And if not, I'll just come camp at your office. If you can project, of course, my document is.
It might help if
frozen.
you turn off your camera, Superintendent. Usually that helps a little bit with the connection.
Let me try that.
Very true.
My computer is just frozen.
Might have to step out, maybe.
Give me a minute. Let me try again. I can't even leave the meeting. Let me try again.
I think she just
I think she just left.
I think she just did. I guess we'll give her a second to rejoin.
We'll give her a second.
While we're waiting, can I offer a comment about language line quickly? Not the language line, I'm sorry, Parent Square.
Yeah.
So I know that it's working, right? I have an aunt who's raising a granddaughter and she's like, if I get one more message, I said, well, that proves you're getting the messages as the school district needs you to get them. Because she says she is definitely informed. And I can say that too as a parent. You're definitely informed multiple ways. And it's better to be over-informed than not informed at all.
Agree with that. I think I heard footsteps, like she went to another.
I was gonna say, is she coming into your office, Christina?
And she said that. Let me just go check.
It wouldn't be a meeting without technology issues.
Right? You know what you? Superintendent, is she there? Okay. What you wanted to come on? Okay. All right. She's heading to Mr. Sugarman's office, so we should be back on shortly.
Well, while we wait, I hope everyone's staying cool and drinking lots of water. It's horrible outside.
Mhm. Do you hear her?
Hear me?
No, now we can hear you.
Testing, testing.
Okay.
Okay, it's just, I'm not in my squares. I'm with Mr. Sugarman.
There we go.
Okay. So thank you, Christina. Quickly, let me glance over the next slide, Christina, for the objectives. And I just want to make sure that we're going to be talking about the fact that we're going into a new year, and it is an opportunity for all of us to not only ground ourselves on the work that we have been doing, but also the challenges that are ahead. And we're going to do a quick review of our goals, our successes, our challenges, and then talk a little bit about the continued evolution of our district strategic plan. It is a plan that, as you know, and you'll see, looks very, very similar to last year's version, but there are a few areas in which we are focusing in on and doing a little bit differently based on the feedback that we have heard from our stakeholders. And this is a slide that we all know, right? It's an anchoring slide that has our mission, our vision, and our beliefs. And want to make sure that we're explicit about those beliefs as they reflect what we know our students, one, are capable of, and what our families and community have said matters, and what we believe they are deserving of in response to what they've told us they need. Quick glance at our next slide. I will not go over all of these demographics, but what I do want to point out the diversity that is clearly reflected in the fact, for example, that there are 88 languages spoken across our district. The majority of our students identify as Hispanic Latino with 56%, 9,500 students, 29% African American, and we also, just pointing out to you that we do currently have about 500 students, or 3% of our students, that are without permanent housing, which of course it has implications for the decisions that we make as we continue to focus and deliver on equity. And our next slide is an overview of our goals. Those have not changed, those major goals, and a reminder that those are targets that are closely aligned to the targets that are set by the State Department of Education and that are in alignment to federal accountability guidelines as well. So let's go into the year end review. This is information that we have shared with our stakeholders in different platforms. And what we've tried to do here, I know it's a busy slide, but as you can see, they're color coded to align with each of our priorities. And so we have some celebrations, in the blue there, with regard to over 4,100 of our students participating in the extended learning opportunities. And those include our Saturday Academy, our summer school programming, our intersession programming. Also celebrating that we have almost 500 ninth graders that enrolled in career pathways for next year. You can kind of read through there, through the list there as to some of our celebrations. One that I will highlight before we shift over to the last slide is the fact at the bottom there that, over 190 teachers have been hired since we kicked off our recruitment season. And, the team at OTM, and actually the teams throughout our schools and departments, continue to lift and support in that work as well. Next slide, Christina, please. As we look at the updates in our strategic plan. So the priorities remain the same. This is the foundation of our academic support and the development of all of our students. Remember last year when we had the opportunity to calibrate on how we were going to plan for the additional ESSER and ARP funding, we did engage over 50 hours of engagement, and we got feedback and aligned it all and determined that we had 11 strategies, and feedback that came back suggested that there were too many and that we needed to narrow down to 7. And so the feedback was from school leaders, teachers, community members, even some board members with regard to, you know, some of the things that we should continue to lift. And so for example, you know, you see across there that high quality teaching and learning has 3, purple, welcoming, nurturing climate 1, engaging family community partnerships 1 strategy, and then skillful staff and effective operations 2. And as I go through the next couple of slides, that is the way that the slides are going to be laid out by priority and specifically the strategies. I'll share a few examples of the strategies, and then obviously, Christina, you already shared the document with our board for doubling down on any of the specifics. So this is a priority 1, and it does look very similar, given that the focus still remains on 3 big buckets, and that the buckets, right, if you go across strategic goals, right, curriculum, instruction, and assessment, the support, the systems of supports that we're providing for all students, that is also referred to at times as the multi-tiered system of support. And then also the preparation for secondary and post-secondary success, right? You heard one of our contracts earlier this morning, OPP, for example, right? That fits in specifically within the preparation for secondary and post-secondary success, and also aligns with, you know, the increase and improvements in systems of supports for our students. So I'll highlight, you know, the fact that we are naming instructional training, coaching, and support for teachers as a very specific work stream. This was feedback that we got loud and clear from staff and administrators as to additional supports and coaching for our staff. And, you know, an example of that is the partnership on the implementation of the new math curriculum, curriculum review, expansion of our health programming, continuing the learning walks is another example. We want to make sure that, you know, the supports that we're providing to staff are having an impact in the classroom with instruction and for our students. We can go to the second, the other priority, welcoming culture and climate, which is focused on deepening and expanding the systems. Wait, am I having? Yes, the systems of supports to specifically promote student engagement. And some examples include development of district level student engagement supports to lead in reducing our chronic absenteeism. We want to continue to support school-based teams. And one way to do that is offering expansion of extracurricular activities, right? That's another way that we can engage our students, and additional opportunities to expand student voice. We want to continue to leverage our student governments and advisory boards, and expand on not only formal, but the informal opportunities for students to lead and become mentors as students and ambassadors as well. And lastly, here is the focus on our athletic programming, right? We know that all of our high schools offer athletics, and they have now, all of them have new equipment. And we want to continue to sustain those offerings, but then continue to expand in the elementary grades. As you know, investments were already made in middle grades, and so that's also going very strong, but we now want to continue to build in the earlier grades. And our next priority is very similar to what we had, but there's now an explicit connection between family and community partnerships and the academic success and well-being of our students. We knew that that's what we were aiming toward before, but feedback that we got was to make it even more explicit. And this was feedback from parents that, you know, parents kept saying to us, we want to know how to get better at helping our students be better students, especially with an academic focus. And so we recognize the importance of kind of forming those connections and the purpose of explaining that. And we know that this is a strategy that is actually a foundation across all of our goals. You know, and an example of this is the expansion of our community schools. We now know that not only did we expand at the K-8 level, but we also expanded into our high schools, with Weaver last year coming on as a community school. And into next year, we are expanding, for example, the Student Success Center. I know that's, there's a connection, right, between, even though it's not a community school at Buckley, but it is a resource that ties in to community and family supports. And in our last priority, this is the one that I would say has the most changes. There were significant changes with, we've removed the performance management and operations strategies. The work of those, of the offices of finance, communications, talent management, kind of lift up the 3 priorities that I just described, and will continue to help the team's success. So one example is that we want it to be very clear, very explicit in our collaborative structures, the way that we collaborate. Departments collaborate, for example, our operations department, our communications department, our data department, those cut across everything that we do across the organization. And so one of our goals is making the what's important even more important is the fact that we are continually attracting, hiring, supporting, and retaining our staff, right? That is at the core of our success, and the success of everything in our strategic plan. So we are acutely aware that there have been significant staffing challenges in education here, across the state, across the country, and we know how much it matters to have high quality staff. And so embedded in this goal is our commitment to equity for our students, families, and staff, and a new way that work around equity is going to show up in across our different stakeholder groups is through the development of our equity-centered collaborative advisory structures. This is new work for this year, and this will help facilitate the representation of various voices throughout our community so that we can continuously improve and evolve as you know, we seek to not only meet the current needs, but meet the needs of you know, the imagined education that has to happen. We know that we don't know yet. We, Hartford Public Schools, and the larger we, what the public education experience has to evolve into as we kind of keep looking at the role that technology plays in learning, the role that you know, the workforce needs are going to indicate to us. And so we want to make sure that we have these structures in place so that as we continue to engage and reimagine our work, that we have stakeholder voice and opportunity for co-creation. And this strategy is divided into 2 work streams that have short-term and long-term implications, right? So one of the first work streams addresses the need to retain and attract, for example, students, which, as you know, is at the center of our, or it aligns with our chef agreement. And so we want to kind of build on not only the staff, attracting, retaining, supporting our staff, but there's also, you know, an element around student and family recruitment, retention. Let's see. One other thing that I will say here is that we also have, as you all aware, a unique moment in that we have the resources short term, but there are still added resources to try to innovate and see if and how our schools can determine either structures or small initiatives that they want to try to implement. And one way, which we presented to you last time, was the Equity Innovation Grants, right? These are the school-based grants that funded by ESSER, and it's to allow schools, in response to their feedback, flexibility to work with their SGCs, staff, students, and create an opportunity for innovation. And then I'll go to next steps, and then I will pause for questions or comments. So our focus as we open the year is on renewal, right? We know that as much as we want it to be, the pandemic is not fully over. And we also know that we have a different level of understanding about our students and what the community has told us that they need. And we also by now have almost 3 years of experience under our belt with regard to managing through a pandemic. And so, some of that is informing the work, some of that is informing what we should not do again. But our immediate next step, as we think about all of those experiences that we have gained, is to continue to connect with our administrators, our teachers, our staff, our families, our partners, to share updates on our strategic plan and reconfirm and recommit and on our mission, vision, values, and the beliefs that really make Hartford Public Schools so special. We're going to continue to develop structures for future planning and collaboration with our community to continue to evolve our plan. And we wanted to have this opportunity today to share a snapshot. Right? These are not all the details, but this is a snapshot of some of the major events, as you can see here, that we have upcoming. They're in alignment with our strategic plan and give us an opportunity to create yet another set of touch points with our community around the plan as we enter into next year. That was a mouthful, so I will pause back to you, Ms. Escribano.
Thank you, Superintendent. As you said, let's pause here. I'm going to hand it over to my fellow board members. Do any of you guys have questions? Ms. Brody, Mr. Walker, Francois?
Yeah, this is
Mr. Walker?
Board Member Walker. I guess I could try to get on screen. I'm not sure where I am. So my comment is, I think my focus as I look towards what the superintendent and her office is doing is I want to continue to encourage and look for more partnering and collaboration. I think one of the things the superintendent does well is his plan demonstrates. I think you put together a nice vision and some activities and focuses we're going to do, and I think you'll do an effective job of rolling it out. I think I'd like community teachers and everyone to be more bought in, and to be more bought in because they can begin to see their fingerprints on this thing, that somehow we get people to feel like their needs, their handprints, something that is important to them is part of the plan, part of our initiatives. And so that'll be my comment, that as we do a lot of this rolling over the year, that partnering and collaboration is felt and experienced by our stakeholders.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. That's okay, Superintendent, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I just kind of take it in and then respond later. So,
no, you can just take it in and respond later.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Ms. Brody, she's still here. Do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brody. Francois?
No questions at this time.
Great, and I don't have any questions at this time either. You may continue, Superintendent.
Yes, I was going to respond to Mr. Walker's comment suggestion, and I agree. You know, one of the things that we're so fortunate this time around was the added voices that we had, for example, in our survey. a significant increase in voice. That is not the only way, but that is one way. The other way to get at the buy-in is, so buy-in is shared. It's a shared process that happens not only with central office, but also with our schools. And so making sure also that we have an opportunity to engage with our school leaders so that they too understand the plan and how they're then implementing through their school improvement plans. And so more opportunities for in-person connection, not only right as we're opening up with our team here at central office and myself, but also making sure that different stakeholder groups, Mr. Walker and board, understand the plan so that they too, right, can not only inform it, but also begin to see themselves in the plan. So thank you for that, Mr. Walker. Fully agree.
If I don't see any other questions or concerns, we can continue.
So Christina, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. So that actually is the agenda, Ms.
Oh,
Escobar.
great. Awesome. Well, I'm glad we finished 10 minutes early. Look at that.
I apologize for the technical difficulties.
It's okay. It wouldn't be a meeting without technical issues. I apologize for having to step out for a portion of that. And thank you, Christina, for taking over the meeting while I was gone. So I know we have a couple of follow-ups. In summary, we're gonna do have board members meet with OPP, go there.
I think we just lost Ms. Escobar. Oh,
Girls. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Better?
yes.
Okay, great. So we will set up a meeting with OPP for board members to see them. And then the other one, I was out of the office. It was around language revision.
The language line.
The language line, Ms. Chief Blackburk will schedule, work with you, Christina, to schedule a meeting to facilitate answering any other questions.
Great. And that is, and then obviously Mr. Walker's comment and Superintendent, you responded to that. Besides that, those are the 3 key takeaways so far in terms of follow-ups. Is there anything that I missed?
Don't
Well,
believe.
just a plug for the upcoming events. Board members, you are all invited. So Christina, let us know. We
I was gonna
would
say
love
you
to
took
have
the
you.
you took the words out of my mouth. I've been inviting them to a few. I'm gonna keep harassing until I hear back. But I'm gonna also add, I see the community canvassing, which I think would be a great opportunity for board members to get out there and meet and greet our parents and community.
And while you're here, while we're all here, we have the 16th, right? August 16th is the
Back to school bash.
event, the school bash, and then the other one at the Excel Center for the teachers is August
25th.
25th, and that's at 8 in the morning, right?
Yes.
I see
Right
I'm
and early.
getting better at my dates. I'm not in front of me, but I'm remembering. And then the other one, what was the other one, Christina?
A brand new one, August 23rd and 24th. We have back to school community canvassing, which I don't know, Superintendent, if you want to briefly explain what that looks like, or
Well, first of all, we are hoping that is going to be cooler out there for our canvassing. Let's start there. And it is really getting up and close and personal with our community. And so not only checking in with our families throughout the community, but also with our community partners, our vendors, and really reminding folks, one, school is back in session, is going to be back in session, and specific message around attendance and making sure that they also encourage students and youth around being in school every day. And this is beyond only targeting and outreaching our families. This is really a community-wide effort to communicating how important it is to have young people in school so that we can establish connections and make sure that our students meet success. And so it's a shared vision and a shared communication approach in partnership.
and this is
And Ms. Chief Blackburk, if you want to add anything, but right, we've not been able to do it so extensive, but it was really felt throughout our community when we began doing this work a few years ago.
Thank you. Chief Blackbird, do you have any additional comments?
My only additional comment, and Christina, thank you for the plug, and superintendent, but board members, please, our community, they would be so glad to see you out with us, knocking on doors, going into the stores and the bodegas, the barbershops. So please, if you're able to make it to the canvassing, please do. And also on the 16th, I told Christina I would love for board members to help hand out backpacks. The students are always happy about that, and families, along with the superintendent. So please, if you can, let Christina know and she'll connect with me.
Thank you. I do have a question. I see you, Francois. I will get to you right now. Did we, for the canvassing, will union teachers be joining us as well, besides, community members, your staff? Will there be teachers also joining us? If we don't, I would like to recommend we reach out to Carol Gale and put it out there for her teachers to see if they're available to help join us as well during that time.
We can certainly share the information. It is not a work day, and so
right. It's not a work day, but if there are teachers who want to come out and do it, I think it'll be a good olive branch.
She can certainly share the information, as we don't want to make a formal request and be in violation of any contractual obligations. But yes, we will certainly share the information.
Correct. Let's just share the information, put
Absolutely.
it out there, say that it's optional. We would encourage teachers to come out and join board members, your staff, and out there. So I appreciate you sharing that.
We'll extend that to not just teachers, but all staff.
Great.
Let me
Wait, Mr.
drop in,
Walker,
if I can drop on that really fast, super fast. I am wondering.
Point of order, I'm sorry, I had my hand up.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Let's take a step back one moment. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for sharing that information with all the unions, and hopefully we'll have even a bigger turnout, right? Francois?
Thank you. I had a couple of questions. One was, where would we be starting on the 23rd and 24th? Would it be, would we meet up, for the community, going out into the community? Would we meet at Hartford Public at a specific school? Like, how is that gonna look? And also, I just want to, caution and kind of echo what the superintendent was saying with regards to certified teachers and the union and possibly being in violation, or I understand the olive branch piece, but as a certified teacher, it can be somewhat of a stressful time, because I know that teachers are, trying to take advantage of their last little bit of summer vacation and preparing their classrooms for the students to, to come back and things like that. So, yeah, I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Francois. And if you guys, Christine, I'm sure you share all that information and meetup spot, time, and all that. So if you can share that with the entire board, I appreciate that. And I agree, Francois, 100%. I think just making it clear that this is optional, it's not a requirement, but they're welcome to join us, because I agree, we don't need any of those issues. Mr. Walker, I know you had a comment or a question. I don't know if you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Francois captured. I think I just had a reaction to comment. She captured the sense of, to me, I think that messaging towards teachers should come from the school board. I think all the concerns she had about it coming from the superintendent, she's already captured. There may be an opportunity for the school board to do a reach out and to potentially invite people to join the school board in some event or activity.
Right. And if it has to come, Christina, I don't know if you recommend it comes from the board as opposed to the superintendent's office. That's fine. I just want to make sure that information is out there, widely available to those who want to come and volunteer. So if that's the best approach, let's do it that way. I don't want to put anyone in the hot seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my only feedback.
Yep. Is there any last questions, concerns, comments before we adjourn this meeting? All right, well, I'm excited about these events coming up, and I can't believe the school year is right around the corner. I don't know where the summer went, to be honest. So is there anything we're missing, Christina? Or are we all good to go?
We should be good to go.
All right, great. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care, stay cool, drink lots of water.
Thank you.